Hello again, everybody. This is the Acura TLX Type S with the super handling all-wheel drive. Yes, there it is. We've covered this car a couple times. We're big fans of it. I love it in this color combo. One of the big things we talk about is the scale of the car, and you can see it's big. In fact, it's almost Dodge Charger big. It's almost that big. But the other thing we've talked about is the back seat space, and I have to at least demonstrate again. Now, this is actually slightly forward of my perfect driving position. I actually pulled it up a bit to benefit the back seat space, and I still want to show you that in a car this big, I can fit, but you can see I've got to put my knees on either side or off to one side, and this is as far up as I can look. I can't, well, hang on. I can do that. I can do that as well. That's the other option because there's just not enough headroom. There's not enough knee room. This really is a kind of a 2+2 with 4 doors, as we've mentioned before. Now, that is the downside, but how do you use this? Are you looking for an executive fun driving sedan? And now we have different things to talk about. I gotta get out. Hang on. There it is. Because up here, it's much, much better news. Hot day out there today. I'm going to go all the way to that mode. I'm going to go all the way to, yes, Sport Plus. I'm going to wait for a Subaru because it's Park City and it's almost all Subarus. So this is a 10-speed actual automatic. It's not a dual clutch. And I wish I could properly describe to you how surprising the power is in this car. 355 horsepower, 354 pound-feet of torque. It is a bespoke 3-liter engine for this car with a dual scroll turbo. There's a lot going on the technology here. Super handling all-wheel drive. This is the big boy of the Acura car lineup right now. This is the epitome of we're going to make a fast sports sedan. Now, we really like the Acura Type S very much. It and the Honda Civic it's based on both have actually significantly more actual back seat space in such a smaller car. But what this offers is a big, commanding car with fantastic front seat space. In fact, look, I'm going to adjust my seat. There, see, I'm changing the bolsters right now as we speak. It's very pleasing. Since there's a white Subaru out back in front of me, it doesn't matter. The transmission listens very well to anything you ask of it. And in Sport Plus, this thing is just ready to go. Double wishbone front suspension. It is set up like a performance car. And that's kind of why I laugh at the +2 back seating, because while it has the shape and scale of a big executive sedan, this is a sports car masquerading as an executive shape. It actually doesn't feel small. It feels every bit as big as it actually is, which makes sense. It's just, this is stuck in the middle because it looks and represents like you bought a big executive sedan. Look at me and my 4 doors and my space, but it doesn't actually give you that. Then you get in here and I put the seat as low as I want, which actually I could go a little lower, as low as I want, and it has almost a sports car feel in the way that you interact with all of the glass. It almost feels like I've got a sports car seating position in here with an excellent front seat, a good passenger seat, tons of good technology. What I don't really have is usable back seats for most people. Now, of course, Paul and I are big people, so that's a big factor. That's a lot of speed in a short amount of time. That was partial throttle too. I need to understand that was nothing like I'm flooring it. That was, I don't know, maybe half throttle? Now I'm going to go back to normal. I'm going to stay away from comfort. Now, comfort's one of the places where I think this car lets itself down, because comfort, yes, it is the softest setting on the ride and the slowest response on the gas pedal, etc. However, it is so soft that you kind of get tossed around at low speed. You go through a parking lot, you hit bumps, you'll be surprised at how much it tosses you around. I want the body control to be much, much better. So I stay out of comfort, but I'm here in normal, and it really calms this powerful engine down a good amount. But it still has usable power. It doesn't disappoint. A lot of times in normal, a car will just be disappointing because it dialed itself back so far. This didn't get that far. Of course, we're talking about originally a front-wheel drive architecture here in the way that Acura thinks about it, but it is super handling all-wheel drive. You can see right here, it's actually showing you old Evo style, what the wheels are currently doing. This can send as much as 70% of the power to the back axle and then go 100% of that left and right. Let's go back to... Now, hopefully I'll get a chance to pass these folks in a minute. The rest of the interior is a little bit of a mixed bag. I mean, everything you could possibly want technology-wise is here. This touchpad is just annoying. You should just work with the screen. I realize they've kept the screen further away from me. That's why it has a touchpad. It's not as easy as what we're used to, which is touch and move, of course, on normal screens. There is a head-up display. I've got it turned down right now. There's actually a nice, hey, look at that. See, nice sunroof up there. I can't overstate how nice it is to be the driver or even the passenger in this car, except for the fact the passenger does sit a little higher than the driver, which is a little strange. I think about what a hard market it is for this car because, well, there's not a lot of good, affordable, full-scale executive sedans that are the least bit fun to drive. This is fun to drive. It doesn't have all the space I was hoping for, but it also has a price tag under $60,000 loaded. This paint color combination, everything brings this car to about $58,000 as spec'd and as given to us here, which on one level you could say it's a lot of money, but there's a lot of cars you can spec up to the mid $50,000 range. And this is frankly one of the most affordable super sedans available right now. We're talking about competing with things like the Alfa Giulia Quadrifoglio and the M3. I mean, yeah, they have more power than this, but that's the same kind of market, and we're significantly cheaper here. It's a busy day on the lake. I might not get a chance to pass anybody. That is a busy day. I took this road for corners, folks, not to follow white pickups. I just pulled over, but there's somebody behind me, so it doesn't really get any better. Decent sized trunk, lots of buttons here, but you learn them pretty quickly to know what they actually are. I like having buttons for HVAC especially. Apple CarPlay, of course, works very well. Looking for just a little bit of fun. Just just a little bit of fun. To pull over. Unless both these folks pull over, and then I won't. One but not both. Okay, can I take one of you? Probably. Zero to 60 in this is actually in the mid 5s, so it doesn't sound like some sort of profound number, but the car really moves. mid-range where you're going to actually use the power, I think this car will surprise you. I'm going to go all the way down here, and then let's go for it. All the way to red line. Back to my pickup friends in no time here. Sounds a little bit like a kitchen appliance, doesn't sound great. There is a decent exhaust note underneath there, underneath a whine of, I don't know, what is your favorite kitchen appliance? We are headed that way. It does have kind of a coffee maker, grinder kind of thing about it, with a whoosh on top of it. Very interesting, but not necessarily a pleasing sound. You're not getting an Alpha Quadrifoglio sound out of this. You're not getting a great BMW rumble, which of course is now faked anyway. The thing I am amazed by here is that you got all the technology you could think of for your money. You got a lot of performance. Don't let that under 400 number make you think this isn't a powerful car. It feels every bit as powerful as you would expect a performance sedan to feel in the modern time. Visibility is very good. I haven't had blind spot issues. In spite of the back seats being small, the windows are good sized, so I can see plenty of things. Haven't had any issues changing lanes or anything. There's plenty of good glass. The car has kind of a narrow cabin shape, and yet it doesn't sacrifice visibility like things like a Chrysler 300C used to. The thing I find interesting about this car is the fact that in general, it doesn't require sacrifice. Now, the big sacrifice I have to keep coming back to is the lack of usability in the back seats. They are much more cramped than they should be for something this size. I know we've beat on it a lot. I know we've talked about it in every review of this car. It is the Achilles heel of this package. If you're using it as your commute vehicle, if you're using it as I occasionally put people in the back, you know what, they're probably never ever gonna matter to you. If you're using it as your family car, you and your family need to just be small. Here we go. That's full throttle. You feel the turbo spool. Definitely more powerful above about 3,500 RPM once the turbo spools up. It doesn't stop feeling big. This feels kind of like the scale of something like a Charger or something like that. It does have a large scale to it, but it doesn't feel unwieldy. It still feels like a sports sedan all the time. When you think about how big, for example, the BMW M-Line has gotten, this doesn't feel any bigger than that. In fact, some of that M-Line actually feels smaller than this does. This feels obviously bigger than an M2, similar to an M3, significantly smaller than an M5. This is one of those cars that when it leaves our life, we think that was really good and it had a few issues, but it was really good. And then it comes back and we drive it again and go, was that better than we remembered? Because I think it might be. And I have felt that with the Alfa Giulia for sure. It's one of the cars I recommend a lot. Unfortunately, the Giulia is leaving this market, and that makes me worried for this car. I don't think the TLX is going to be long for this world. I wonder if Acura is selling enough to make it make sense. This is a fantastic looking car. It is a superb driving car. I think it is a tough car to actually sell. I don't know that somebody buying a sedan will get away with not having a more usable back seat than this. It concerns me that it's one of those cars that makes people go to an SUV because they go, see, sedans don't have room. Now, the truth is the G70, which is a competitor to this from Genesis, it doesn't have a great backseat space. The Alfa Giulia doesn't have great backseat space either. A lot of these cars struggle in this area when they're approximately this size. This is one of the worst, candidly, but it is a common problem that I think makes people go SUV. But if you can make the Acura TLX work for you, if this is enough space, this TLX Type S is a ton of car for the money, an amazing amount of performance, and I just enjoy driving it. I like being here. Every time we have one, we're impressed by it. It was okay and well sorted in lower shapes, lower forms, but in this Type S model, oof, super handling all-wheel drive, a lot of power, worth it. Worth it. High 50s? Absolutely. This is a car worth that, especially when I consider all the other things that end up at high 50s. Ponder this for a second. High 50s gets you a Morizo Edition GR Corolla or this. And I like the Corolla, but come on now. That's how that's done. Easy. One of those cars that's getting slept on. I think that's what's up with the TLX Type S. And I wish it was a bit more usable, but I know that would undermine the great styling and might change the dynamics, though I think the dynamics would be about the same. If you get a chance to drive one, you should. It'll impress you. We're talking Kia Stinger. That's a car that impressed everybody as a big sedan. Genesis G70, similar, good, not always all-wheel drive. Alfa Giulia Quadrifoglio, one of my all-time favorites, not all-wheel drive. This accomplishes all-wheel drive well with Acura performance and reliability and a price tag that is undercutting much of the competition. A lot of upsides, a lot of car. Thanks for joining me.